So if you weren't aware, Big Finish have been releasing quadrilogies of box sets featuring the 8th Doctor ever since 2012, and just the other day the first instalment of a brand new series was released, entitled Stranded. A lot of people aren't too familiar with this range, so I thought I'd give you a brief rundown of what I think of the series so far. It started off with Dark Eyes, which has grown to be a fan favourite, and I found it to be a really strong start. It was great to have McGann back with a brand new cast of characters. Dark Eyes 2 was probably the strongest out of the set, which brought along a new master. Dark Eyes 3 got a bit convoluted and continuity heavy, and Dark Eyes 4 was just a bit of a mess. But then a new series called Doom Coalition started up the same year, which is probably my favourite out of the four. It has some really good standalone stories, as well as handling its own arc, but again got quite convoluted in the final part. Ravenous was the next box set to come along, which started off really weak, and it actually put me off Big Finish for about a year, but Ravenous 2 came back with a bang and featured probably one of the best Big Finish stories I've ever listened to, and the series just got better and better and ended only a couple of months ago with the spectacular finale, Day of the Master. Big Finish get a lot of flack for doing spin-off stories for characters that only appeared for about 5 minutes in the background of one scene. For example, the whole spin-off series they did with the Doctor's daughter and the Dimension Canon, and the series they did with that one guy from that one Torchwood episode. So when I saw that they'd announced a box set that featured the 8th Doctor living in Baker Street with the Curator and PC Andy from Torchwood, I was pretty ambivalent towards this set, but I got more and more excited as the date grew closer, and I ended up really enjoying it in the end. So the series is set in 2020 Earth, free of a global pandemic, in London, where the TARDIS is broken down and the Doctor, Liv and Helen are stranded, hence the title, and are living in the Doctor's house on Baker Street, which was previously introduced in Dark Eyes. And this is already a great concept. The idea of a Doctor living an ordinary earthbound life is quite interesting when you consider him taking up such domestic tasks as doing up a kitchen or even appearing on a game show in one of the episodes. The set opens with Lost Property, which, if I'm being honest, is more of a character piece. In fact, everything in this box set is. There's not really a whole lot of plot in the grand scheme of sci-fi and aliens, but there is a lot of character moments. Lost Property mainly acts as an introduction to this new series and getting to terms with these new settings and characters. Okay, so something I mentioned earlier is the unneeded fan service Big Finish have a tendency for. So, with having the Curator on the cover, you'd expect him to be a pretty key part of the story, right? Well, no. He's literally in 2 scenes in the first episode, and that's it. Don't get me wrong, it was great to hear Tom Baker back, but it wasn't really needed. I'm sure there'll be some more stuff with him later on in the series, and establishing him now was just a bit of a cock tease. The second story is entitled Wild Animals, which is probably the best out of the set. A pretty big thing happens at the beginning, which is pretty undermined throughout, but as said before, there are some really, really great character pieces here with the dynamics and witty dialogues. What is quite possibly one of the most beautiful moments comes about halfway through, which actually brought a tear to my eye listening to it. There's a lot of impact, and I wouldn't be able to get throughout this review without mentioning Rebecca Root playing the character of Tanya Bell, who quite frankly made this box set. She's grown to be the best thing about this set due to the amazing performance throughout and quite frankly stunning character and brilliant addition to the already flawless character of Liv Chenka. Liv was quite an average character to me until Ravenous happened. Nicola Walker is simply superb throughout the final 2 box sets and still holds up here. I think giving her a love interest was a really good idea and she seems to get on really well with Tanya. The third story in the set is called Must See TV, and is quite a nice idea, but again, not too much happens in this episode action-wise. It's essentially like a modern-day version of The Idiot's Lantern, which I already love, so there was no fault there. Also, Torchwood is there, just because. And this is where PC Andy comes into play, and honestly, he's okay. I don't really know what sort of reaction Big Finish were trying to spark out of me by bringing such a minute character that was only in a couple of episodes. I think there'd be more impact if they brought someone like Captain Jack or Gwen into the series instead of that one police officer. His chemistry with the other characters was interesting, but it really didn't add a whole lot. Again, there was some nice stuff between Liv and Tanya in this story, but not too much going on. Oh, and remember that monster from that one Torchwood episode with the arm? Yeah, that comes back for no apparent reason. I should probably speak about Helen Sinclair, as she's a brilliant companion and Hattie Morahan really does give a great performance. Throughout Doom Coalition there were some stories in which she visited Earth out of her own time, and I feel like she was given better development in stories like Beachhead or Absent Friends, both of which are brilliant stories and I recommend you check them out, especially the latter. She wasn't really given much to do here in contrast to Liv, but the performance is on top form as usual and the dialogue is great. The final story in the series is called Divine Intervention, and I can't remember it. Despite it being a matter of hours since I listened to it at the time of writing this review, I just feel like it was rather forgettable, but that's not a completely bad thing. Don't go into this box set expecting much in the scheme of plots and story arcs, because there really isn't much there. These stories are more character focused. I'm not really sure if this was John Dorney and Matt Fitton's intention, but it certainly came across this way. But as said, this isn't particularly a bad thing. I found these stories pretty entertaining for the main runtime. I can see myself revisiting this box set for some light listening. I listened to the behind the scenes interviews and even the cast was struggling to describe the stories, but Wild Animals is still the best thing I've ever heard and nobody can change my mind. Overall, I don't really think this is a great series as an introduction to Big Finish, but it's certainly some light-hearted audio drama to fill the gap until the inevitable point where the Eighth Doctor decides to change out of his leather jacket and get a haircut. But I think I'd give this box set about an 8 out of 10. I didn't really feel as shortchanged for action as I thought I would be, and some of the character writing is just the best. So there we go, that was my review for Stranded. Sorry if it seemed a bit short, but it's something I wanted to talk about, so there we are. Let me know if you enjoyed this style of video and if you'd like to see more. I should also mention that I recently recorded a podcast with Harbo Holmes and Tom Harries. It was a lot of fun to do and hopefully you guys enjoy it. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to go and check that out. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. This has been Cynical Who and I will see you all next time. Goodbye.